Hi, I'm Wanda with Jimmy Branch Homestead, and today I am going to be working on building nesting boxes for my chicken coops. And so if you've been watching my channel, you know that I purchased 32 chicks way back in April, and I also hatched out 11 more. Of those 11 I hatched, I think 7 or 8 of them are hens. I'll have to double check when I'm moving them all. But I really want to get as much done today as I can. It is a nice cool day. Well, high of 85 or something like that, so it's still going to get warm. Low 80s. But we have been having super extreme hot weather here in southern Missouri. And so this is a nice relief to be able to work where I can pretty much somewhat breathe anyway. So the first thing I need to do is start gathering materials. And the nesting boxes I'm going to build will be wood, but they're going to be sitting on concrete blocks so that they're not sitting directly on the floor. I have 3. I need to see if I can find one more. And so first off, I'm going to get these over to the building area. So in this coop, I have some small nesting boxes that this hen has never used. She always insists on laying on the floor. I think part of that is because these nesting boxes are pretty narrow and the American breast is a pretty large breed. So I'm going to take these out, clean it up, and put it in another coop. I'm doing a lot of movement around as I'm building as well. And I want to put this in that coop first. I do have 10 white leghorns, so they're a much narrower bird. I'm hoping that they will use these nesting boxes. So let me get this out of here, and we're going to add that to my cart. Watch out, Eddie. Watch out, baby. This coop will end up getting nesting boxes from another coop that I have. It's just a double one, but they're nice big laying boxes. I will need to clean that up a lot before I bring it over here. Right now I only have 1 hen, just a pair in this, and 1 rooster in this coop. I do have 6 more American breast hens in a chicken tractor, and as soon as they are old enough, which will be another 6 weeks or so, then they will come and join this American breast family. So, okay, so I have the block staged over by the coop, so when I'm ready, I can place those in there and the unit on top of it. But before I do that, I need to clean up the metal one and get it in there so that I can measure how much room do I have to build the other nesting boxes. So I like to bring it to the garden and clean it up because I always have this handy hose and nozzle ready to clean out my chicken waters, since I have to clean out some of them every day. As you can see, it's covered with a lot of dust. This nesting box is one I got from Temu. I do wire it to the side of the hoop coop. It does have a space in the back across the top that if you have a wooden frame, straight walled, you can just screw it into the wooden frame. So we got that cleaned up pretty good. Let's Looks like I'm getting some rust on there. Must be from condensation in the coop. Okay, so we're just going to let that drip dry in the sun while we get ready with some other building materials. Okay, so this is building materials that I picked up from Home Depot for this project. And OMG, I can't believe how expensive 1/4 inch plywood is now. It's $20 a sheet just for 1/4 inch. I remember when you used to be able to get 3/4 inch for that. So I need to dig out 2x4s. They're in between the plywood. So I'll do that and I'll come back to you. Okay, I have 6 2x4s. I'm going to take 3 of them up to the shop and rip them in half so that I'll make them into 2x2s. And those will be used for the framework except for the bottom. I've retained a couple of the 2x4s for the bottom sides, the long sides, not the short sides. Actually, the short sides too for the frame. And then I'll use the 2x4s for building the frame on top of it, separating the nesting boxes. Okay, so I have the table saw set up. I need to get these boards ripped. Well, that made quick work. So I just need to get the saw cleaned up, put away, and I'll meet you back at the coop. Okay, so I sprayed this nesting box one more time, and I took the trays out so that it can, and sprayed it again, just to make sure it's good and clean before it goes in this coop. Now I need to measure, because I can't remember how long it is. Seems like it's 36 inches, but oh, it's only 31 1/4 inches. So now I need to go and get my inside measurements, and I think it's like 3 inches less than 8 feet long, or excuse me, 12 feet long. So I can see how long I can make the other nesting box. So I'll go check that out and be back. Okay, so the total length is 144.5 minus the 3 inches of the 2x4s on the ends. That would be 141.5. So I'm going to kind of play around with it and see just how long I want to make, how many nesting boxes I want to do. So let me kind of think about that. Because this will be 3, and I'm hoping the white leghorns will use it since it's smaller. And then I can just add wooden ones to it. This coop ultimately is going to have 20 layers in it. 10 white leghorns and 10 Rhode Island Reds. Right now, there's 42 chickens in here. And I need to start separating them out now that they're old enough. And 11 of them are Easter eggers. I'm going to keep 1 of the roosters, and the others are going to go to freezer camp. And I have a couple older roosters that's also going to go to freezer camp. So that'll be a different video moving all the chickens. Okay, I did some chicken math at 20 birds, 20 to 21, divided by 3 birds per nesting box. I need 7 nesting boxes. So I have 3 in the middle one, and I'm going to build a bank of 4. Any bigger than that, and it gets really hard for me to move to clean the coop. So that will give me several inches extra to be able to maneuver them in the coop. I don't want to do right up against the ends because it would be very difficult for me then to maneuver them. So I've measured out my first board to get a clue. I determined that from my other coop, their favorite nesting box, the size is 13.5 inches wide by 15 inches deep. So to make sure I have room to put a little rail on the front, if I have enough material. If not, I can add that later. I'm going to cut the ends at 16.5 inches to make it 16.5 inches deep. And then, like I said, it'll give me room for one of those little rails to go across the front. And then I've marked the board with the X's. That is going to be what divides each nesting box. And I measured those at 13 3/4 to allow for the 1/4 inch plywood that I'm going to put to divide each nesting box. So that puts me down here where I'm going to cut it off. And then I measured for this. I haven't marked it, but it is long enough to do the 2 ends. So I'm going to go ahead and get those boards cut to length, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I have my bottom frame together. So now I need to cut a piece of plywood 63 inches long to cover the base and 16.5 inches deep. So I'll go take care of that. Okay, so I have my plywood cut to size, and I'm just going to use 1.5 inches. I wouldn't even have to use that long. I could use inch ones, but that's what I have in my work wagon, so that's what I'm going to use. Now it's a T25 tip, so I had to change it from my T20 for the 3 inch. And I'm just going to put a few in it to hold it. I'm going to start with 1 in each end. And again, this is just rough cut plywood. There's no need to have finished plywood for this. This is untreated plywood, and I will be covering it with a linoleum. So I'll just put a couple more screws in here to hold it. And we'll have a lot more screws going through it as we continue to build the frame. I'm going to change back my tips so I don't forget. Okay, for the next part, I usually use linoleum. I'm sure I have some laying around somewhere, but for the life of me, I can't find it. So I have this corrugated plastic board, and that will protect the chickens against splinters because I use the rough plywood, but it will also make cleaning up the nesting boxes so much easier. So I'm going to put a couple screws in a piece of this, and then I'll cut it off, and then I'll cut the next piece. I'll just use my X-Acto blade to do that. And I'm going to put one in the middle here. I want to keep it tight so stuff don't get under there. Okay, easy enough. And then I'll do the same thing here for the end. And I want to butt it tight up against the other one because I don't want any kind of junk getting down in between there. Okay, I've cut two 13.5 inches of the 2x2s, or 1.5 by whatever they are, the half of a 2x4. And I'm going to go ahead and screw those into place. Okay, so that I can tell exactly where to screw this board down, I put the square on the edge of my marking where the 2x4 goes. And then I put one of these other pieces of the half a 2x4 in front of it, because that's what's going to go along the front. And then I hold it and screw it down. Now I need to also check the back. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And I originally didn't completely screw down the front one because I wanted to have a little bit of room if I needed to move this end of the board into place. So now that I've showed you how to do that, I'm going to go ahead and get the other ones down, and then I'll be back for the next steps. Okay, so I cut all my back boards at 14 inches, and then I angled them, I guess about a 45-degree angle. And to make sure they were all the same, I used the board that I first one cut to mark all the others to make sure they're the same. And then the front ones I did at 13.5 inches and also angled them at the same angle. So I still need to screw all those in, and then I'll come back to you. But this angle thing, this is going to be indoors. If you don't want to, you can just make them a plain square box and you don't have to do any angles at all. And then you would just do them all at 14 to 14.5 inches high, front and back. You don't have to angle them. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the front ones screwed in, and then I'll be back. Okay, so unfortunately, I messed up. So I messed up on my angles. I had them angled too steep for as close together as they are. So to fix it, I put this long rail across the top and screwed it into the top of all the 13.5 inch ones, and then at the bottom, and even with the other boards, wherever the walls are going to be. Then I took 3 more pieces and went across just the middle, the ends, to really sturdy it up on the 14.5 inch and to the 13.5 inch. So there's still some slight slant. Again, I don't really need a slant. But that's how I'm going to fix it. So next, I need to cut a board to go across the back, part of my 1/4 inch. So I am going to measure that. And I want it to come to the top of those 14-inch boards. Actually, to the top of these. I'm going to put it to the top of the additional ones I put to make sure I sturdy it up right. So, that will mean it needs to be about 18 inches because I want it down on a 2x4 a couple of inches. You're not going to really see the back anyway. So 18 inches high. Okay, so 18 by 63. And I only need, well, one of those. Let's see what the top's going to be. $18 and a half. So I need one 18 by 63 and one 18 and a half by 63. So it's almost time for dinner. Let me see if I can get those cut or not. Okay, so this is the back piece. I'm putting the least rough side on here. And I've just partly screwed in the screw over here till I can get this side. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the screws in here and probably call it a night. I was really hoping to have it done, and I might have got done if I hadn't messed up a couple times. But, you know, most of my plans are in my head as I go. And so sometimes I have to make adjustments. So let me go ahead and get this screwed down, and we'll go from there. Okay, it is the next day, and last night I did put on both ends. I measured those 13 1/4 high by 17 1/4 wide, and I am going to do the inside ones while I have the top off, because it will be so much easier, the divider walls for in between the nesting boxes. So just to double check the measurements, I know I want to do them 10 inches high. You might notice on the ends I have a gap of 4 to 5 inches, and that's for airflow. We're in a very hot, humid area, and so I really need these hens to be able to get air when they're on the nesting box. So we're going to do just under 17 on these walls. It's like 16 3/4, just to make sure they don't protrude out. Yep, 16 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 pieces, 16 3/4 high, excuse me, wide by 10 inches high. And let me go get those cut. Okay, so I have my 3 panels cut. So when I'm putting the screws in, I need to take care that I'm not putting them in where they're going to hit the other screws that I put in previously. So that's perfect. It's a little higher in between than what the ends are. Because the ends, remember, I dropped down to the bottom here. Just tighten that up. Hit a nail. Hit one of the prior screws. Ow. Ooh, hot. Okay. So if you wanted to paint the inside, you could do that now before you put the roof on. I'm going to leave everything natural. I'm not going to fancy this one up. You know, it is fun sometimes when you get it done, you know, put trim on it and everything, and and really paint it up fun. I'm really just building to be functional today. So I'm going to go ahead and measure for the top. Let's see. And I actually want that to come out slightly beyond it. Which looks like 19 would be just a hair. Okay, so I need a board. Let me see. 63¼ by 19. Sure, that's what I said. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and measure the boards and get those cut. Okay, so I was really working to not have to use more than one sheet of plywood because I do have another one of these just like this I need to build for the next coop. So I did have to use 2 pieces to only use 1 sheet of plywood, and it will work. Again, it's not going to be out in the rain, so it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and finish getting this screwed down. Okay. Again, if I was going to make it pretty, now's the time I would do it. So when I move it in the run, I'll have a block at each end holding it up. And you could put it right on the floor. I just like to have mine up off the floor a little bit. So I am going to chase chickens out into the run and lock the door, and then we will get these put in place. Okay, so I do have both nesting boxes in place now. The only thing left that I really need to do is put nesting pads in the bottom of the boxes, and then also I will want to put like a little lip on here, whether it's a 1x6 covering up the front of the bottom, or a 2x2 or a 2x4. I want to put something on there. It's not really necessary. I just like to do that to kind of make their nesting pads stay in better. And then here is the Tamu one. I did allow just a little bit of space in between them, and that's because, again, of the airflow. There are some airflow vents here, and there's no back in these, but the airflow for this one's right here. So I had the room. I just wanted to leave a little bit of area in between them. Now, this one is on legs. You can take them off the legs, or just not put the legs on when you get it, and have it on the ground. You can wall mount it. But since I'm using it in hoop coops, I went ahead and put the legs on it, and then I zip tie the back where you would normally screw it to the wall. There's a hole, so I zip tied those to hold it in place, and it's sturdy. It's not going anywhere. So these are the rollout kind. If they lay an egg up here, it will roll to to the front. So for now, I'm not going to put any nesting pads in these because the nesting pads would keep them from rolling. I may end up putting them in there for when they very first start, so I know if they're using it. Otherwise, I have to check it every day. So these chicks, if you've been watching my channel, are almost 4 months old. So they're almost old enough to start laying. That doesn't mean they will necessarily start laying at 4 months. Sometimes they don't lay till 5 or 6 months. But this chicken coop I built to house the 32 chicks that I purchased, plus the 11 that I hatched, and I just used it for a giant brooder all this time. As they have grown, I've added roosting bars and a large feeder. This feeder holds 4 50-pound bags, and the bottom of it is chick start, and the 2 bags on the top, I've added hen feed. So to start switching them over. So if you're enjoying this type of video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our videos on your social media. It's the best way you can help our channel to grow. Thank you so much for watching Jimmy Branch Homestead. Take care and God bless.